All right, and next up on stage is Aware and Mohamed. Mohamed, please hit that green button and let's get you going.
Terrific. Well, Philip, so wonderful to see you again. Delighted to be here. First and foremost, I want to express my gratitude to Liminal for this opportunity. Would love to talk about something very exciting today. So we're talking about the application of age estimation in a world where this requirement has become really important. And love an opportunity to just converse on the topic. And to that end, what I have in mind is to put up maybe one or two things to guide the conversation in terms of a mental model, so we can view what we are talking about. And obviously, then we'll get to really what is the exciting part is to put that into action in a demo. And hopefully it'll be very exciting to go through all of it, and then invite some questions so we can explore this more as a discussion. So without any further ado, so let's just get into the sharing of the screen. And here we go. So what we're here to talk about today is to really think through this requirement of age estimation. What is it? How do we put it into action? How does it work into the real world? And then ultimately, how does it deliver the results against the particular use cases and applications that we are interested in? I thought that one way perhaps we could illustrate this is this with this picture here on how to enable it within a life cycle of a use case or an application. And the thought process is that we begin first with the people that put it together, which is to get some sort of either an application or a website that requires, according to some policy or some regulatory requirement, to have a check on age estimation into the workflow. So one can then take that application and integrate within it a check that will allow that to happen. From an administration standpoint, this can be done with very light touch. Subscribing to a service that does age estimation could be made quite simple, which I will demonstrate. And then the delivery would be something that, without impacting user experience, one can simply enable that particular service, begin the flow, and at the prerequisite time where the age estimation needs to take place, then the service is called, performs the estimation, and then returns the result. Today, there is a plethora of use cases that we could certainly choose from. So today, one of the things I thought I will do to simulate this is to talk about it in a context of, say, purchasing gaming credits into, say, an online gambling application. Obviously, regulatory requirement demands that one needs to clear the age of 18 plus. As such, it becomes a gating item. One can register into the process, and as they are about to engage with the application and in fact maybe purchase some credits in order to begin placing the bets, the age estimation kicks in and then requires the gated question to be answered before it goes in. How does this work under the hood? It works simply in a manner that's like this, which is pretty much seamlessly executed. A user initiates some verification. So say a pre-registered user has gone through a biometric check requiring proof of humanness, that it is really a human being, not a deep fake, not a bot, not something else that initiated the creation of the identity. So that identity gets vetted. Obviously, we are going to focus exclusively today on the face, because the face is going to become the signal from which we will do the age estimation. So the face capture will take place. Then we will process the face for all of the biometric requirements, including age, and then the result is delivered. So in real time, the way that the flow is going to work, which I will demonstrate shortly in the demo, will begin to step through each one of these 5 phases, with the desirable outcome being, if the policy says one is required to be 18 years of age or plus, that requirement is checked before we go any further. So that is essentially what I am going to demonstrate. So without any further ado, let us bring the application on how first we set it up. And that looks like this. So we're going to go into the way that we do this in our particular environment. So we have a environment that allows you without code as a no-code platform to go into an administration portal in order to manage the workflows as the process is set according to whatever policy that the organizations deems to be the necessary thing to do. So in this particular case, although there's a lot we can do at the time of enrollment and verification, we could register devices, we could capture biometrics, we could capture multimodal biometrics, maybe face and voice. We could check a document by doing an IDV environment, register a certain PIN, and we could do a number of other things. For the purposes of the conversation today, we are going to exclusively focus in the area where my cursor is moving here, which is to key on the biometric and primarily focus on the idea of having age estimation as a gating item and then verify it inside the workflow. See, if I were to toggle this off, it means that the policy will not be acted upon. The reason for which it's toggled on is because this is what we wish to demonstrate today. We are going to pick, say, the age of 21 as an example here, which means that one gets set, and then everything above that particular age is deemed to be acceptable, and anything below this age will be rejected. There are other ways in which age estimation can be put to work with bracketing, certain tolerances around it, etc. And there are many more things we can do, such as, for example, when this particular individual comes to check the age, we want to make sure that they didn't game the system before, so we could check from the biometric for things like deduplication of the identities, so we can disambiguate as to whether we are seeing some social engineering requirement for an identity claim that is not legitimate or unauthorized, and things of that nature. So after this system is set in here, so this is where we do set the workflow and we activate the policy into action. Let us now see it in the use case. So what is this particular case I'm going to be talking about? I'm going to be simulating this online gaming scenario that I spoke about a minute ago. And what I'm going to be adding is the creation of some place that we are calling an online gambling site in which we are going to go. And perhaps we have the desire to get into this particular site in order for us to have some fun and enjoy the time. So what we are going to do here is to create an identity. This identity would have been in the system at the time of the pre-registration when the credit card was grabbed, when the system of record was created, etc. So I'm going to call this identity something incredibly counterintuitive, just for fun today. And then I'm going to create this at some mail.com site, and then decide on also a rather intuitive password, and then say, I would like to go ahead and have my identity be ready. So later on when I come in, I can have some fun with the site, and it tells me that the user is registered and you are good to go within this environment. However, the policy says that as I begin shopping, for me to acquire these 5,000 credits and add these credits to the game for me to be enabled so I can play with the currency of this particular site, something is going to come in to require something special, which is if I go to the cart now, it's saying I can't transfer this credit and the payment process until you verify the identity with your age. Here, for simplicity, I didn't call it age estimation. I simply called it verify identity. However, the policy requires that in this identity check, I am actually checking on age estimation to ensure that I am over 21 or over 18 or whatever that threshold was set. So I go ahead and I say, I'd like to do this. Obviously, this is all consent-based. It's not going to collect or process my biometric unless first I approve and I authorize it to do so. So I say, go right ahead, I approve of that. You can then collect it. So I come in. And then it says, terrific. We've checked your identity, success. You passed the age requirement of 21, which was the way that the policy was set. So now you can proceed further. In that case, now it's going to turn to the checkout, in which case I'm going, if I didn't put my credit card before, so it's going to ask me for doing this, I will perform that, and then it will conclude. And in effect, where we will end up at this time, we now find ourselves in the very last stage here in which it did take place. So the idea here that I wanted to principally share with you is the notion on how this can be incredibly effective if it's combined in a workflow that leverages the other prerequisite requirements of biometrics, and it can be achieved rather seamlessly as it goes into this. You might have noticed that one of the things that I have done into the requirement, I did not game the system. Obviously, had I turned on the document verification, and if one of the fields in the document verifications happens to be date of birth, then we can check directly a date of birth. But again, for the association of the individual performing the transaction, this was disabled to rely entirely on the signals that come from the face to do a job on the age estimation specifically. And that brings us to the conclusion of what I wanted to share today. And hopefully, I did use just the allocated time given to us here to give us a sense of what we can talk about here, and then we can go from there.
Awesome. Yes, this is perfect timing. And I'm surprised that you passed over 21. You don't look a day older than 20. So
I was agonizing over this all weekend long.
No, this is great. So real quick question. You mentioned something about, hey, we will not capture any of the data without the consent of the consumer.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, clearly that's a great point there. But what do you do with the data afterwards? Does it get stored? How do you process the data, and what happens with the data after the fact?
We use a number of internal policies. These are informed about what we do internally and our requirements when we sign the requirements with our customers. So that's one component I'll talk about. And the other component are the specific requirements of the customers themselves that require a certain set of requirements in managing particular data. So let's go with the first one. The application out of the box applies the best practices in how the system should work. Collecting data through consent, data minimization, rights management to that data about who gets to view it and who gets to work on it, and data retention over the length of the requirements that the policy will require. So the buyer will get to opine on a number of these things. So for example, that a certain buyer will have a data retention requirement that says the data should be deleted within 24 hours from being used, we oblige. Those that say retain it for 30 days and then delete it, we oblige. And those that ask for a requirement to be much longer, either because of audit purposes or because of internal policies, we oblige as well. So that's the general approach that we take towards that.
Awesome. How do you ensure your age estimation models perform fairly across different demographics? You know, the skin tone, gender, age groups, eye shapes. What do you all do to make sure that you have a non-biased system?
So that's such an amazing and critical question. Fairness is really, really of paramount importance in this, in order obviously to not cause imbalances in between all of these groups that sometimes are underrepresented, and in which case they can cause biases into the data sets, into the models that get trained. So by and large, we follow essentially two elements of the strategy. One has to do with the data sets themselves. How do we very carefully collect diverse labeled data that is stratified on the various models. Obviously, a bracket, say, between 18 and 24 would be collected specifically, then a 24 to say 34 specifically collected, then a 34 to say 44, etc. So by having this, this stratification becomes extremely important to ensure that. And then the need to adjust specifically for the reduced disparities in order to balance the accuracy. The good news for that is that you start on the right footing, but then one should not sleep on their laurels. It's very, very important to maintain that, because fairness is not a one-time event, is to ensure sustainability of that fairness over the lifetime of the application. So how do we solve that? So the inclusion of what we call ongoing refinement and outlier training to validate and work towards the bias mitigation is a constant process that we go back to over and over again.
Got it. And then my last question, and then we'll wrap it up, is, obviously we have a lot of new solutions. Age is not going away. It's going to be here for, the future. What should companies look for in an age assurance vendor if they want to be more future proof, right? And not just be compliant for today. Today is obviously important, but how do you set yourself up for the future?
Such a terrific question. I think that that future proofing should indeed be a priority in any buy-in decision, because obviously this is, one, a serious investment, two, it could be impactful, and three, obviously the liabilities associated with it for a long horizon. I would recommend perhaps humbly two things. The first one is that the vendor solutions should be customizable almost to different user biases. So if the primary environment is to track for a binary threshold, less than 18 over 18, less than 21 over 21, that is certainly one way to fine tune and optimize that environment. The second thing that one needs to look at very carefully is that there is no panacea here. It's not or single solution to anything. It's not like age estimation is going to be the be-all, do-all solution to everything. In combination with other things, the biometric processing, the liveness check, the multi-factor authentication, and the balancing of the accuracy with friction will be critically important towards this. So that would be point one. Point two, I think it's incredibly important to continue proactive collaboration for regulation and for independent testing in order to allow for the transparency to emerge. So the more we all know, the better protected is the environment within which we work. So with these two considerations, I think it will be helpful for people who are attempting to procure these solutions to use them as guiding principles.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was really, really good. I appreciate you taking the time to do the demo.
Absolute pleasure.
And with that, we are going to move on to the next vendor.